Hello, welcome to Everyday Storytelling. How are you doing today? We are going to be reading a story, and today we are reading 2 chapters of Twice Freed. But before that, we're going to be doing, first we are going to be doing Joke of the Day. Second, we are going to be doing the Bible. Then we are going to be doing the Synopsis.
Synapsinator?
Then we are going to be doing 2 chapters of Twice Freed. I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss another video. And we actually have a little session in between things that will come in.
I don't know what you're talking about. All right, Daniel, joke of the day.
What is the difference between a locomotive engineer and a teacher?
I don't know. What is the difference between a locomotive engineer and a teacher?
One minds the train and one trains the mind.
Oh!
That was good. Okay, so these pillows need some help. Hi. I don't know who set that camera up. All right. Hi, Granny Bear. Happy Friday. We have our air and our heat. We have our electricity and our heat. And we're toasty warm today, especially upstairs. It is really warm right now, but downstairs it is cold, so I don't know why it is what it is. All right, so now we're going to read Psalm 38 and 39. Psalm 38, this is the English Standard Version of the Bible. A Psalm of David for the memorial offering. O Lord, rebuke me not in your anger, nor discipline me in your wrath. For your arrows have sunk into me, and your hand has come down on me. There is no soundness in my flesh because of your indignation. There is no health in my bones because of my sin. For my iniquities have gone over my head like a heavy burden. They are too heavy for me. My wounds sink and fester because of my foolishness. I am utterly bowed down and prostrate all the day. I go about mourning, for my sides are filled with burning, and there is no soundness in my flesh. I am feeble and crushed. I groan because of the tumult of my heart. O Lord, all my longing is before you. My sighing is not hidden from you. My heart throbs, my strength fails me, and the light of my eyes, it also has gone from me. My friends and companions stand aloof from my plague, and my nearest kin stand far off. Those who seek my life lay their snares. Those who seek my hurt speak of ruin, and meditate treachery all day long. But I am like a deaf man, I do not hear, like a mute man who does not open his mouth. I have become like a man who does not hear, and in whose mouth are no rebukes. But for you, O Lord, do I wait. It is you, O Lord my God, who will answer. For I say, only let them not rejoice over me, who boast against me when my foot slips. For I am ready to fall, and my pain is ever before me. I confess my iniquity. I am sorry for my sin. But my foes are vigorous. They are mighty, and many are those who hate me wrongfully. Those who render me evil for good accuse me because I follow after good. Do not forsake me, O Lord. O my God, be not far from me. Make haste to help me, O Lord, my salvation. Psalm 39. Hi, Jessica! Psalm 39. To the choirmaster, to Jeduthun, a psalm of David. I said, I will guard my ways, that I may not sin with my tongue. I will guard my mouth with a muzzle, so long as the wicked are in my presence. I was mute and silent. I held my peace to no avail, and my distress grew worse. My heart became hot within me. As I mused, the fire burned. Then I spoke with my tongue. O Lord, make me know my end, and what is the measure of my days. Let me know how fleeting I am. Behold, you have made my days a few hands' breadths, and my lifetime is as nothing before you. Surely all mankind stands a mere breath. Selah. Surely a man goes about a shadow. Surely for nothing they are in turmoil. Man heaps up wealth and does not know who will gather. And now, O Lord, for what do I wait? My hope is in you. Deliver me from all my transgressions. Do not make me the scorn of the fool. I am mute. I do not open my mouth, for it is you who have done it. Remove your stroke from me. I am spent by the hostility of your hand. When you discipline a man with rebukes for sin, you consume it like a moth that is dear. What is dear to him? Surely all mankind is a mere breath. Selah. Hear my prayer, O Lord, and give ear to my cry. Hold not your peace at my tears, for I am a sojourner with you, a guest like all my fathers. Look away from me, that I may smile again, for I depart and am no more. That's the end of Psalm 39. At this time, we have a special star coming to give the synopsis.
The one, the only Kimberly.
The one, the only Kimberly.
These pillows are weird.
I know, right?
Sorry, so what happened in the last chapter was Onesimus, he had just been drugged and robbed in the chapter before that. So he went down to work, and there was this guy.
What town was he in?
He was in
Corinth.
Corinth, yeah. He was in Corinth, and he went down to the docks.
Who else lives in Corinth?
Paul?
Jessica lives in Corinth. Hi, Jessica.
I bet there's a Paul who lives there too.
Okay, but she doesn't live in the same Corinth.
Okay, Dad.
So
Dad,
just for some geographical knowledge, Corinth is the city. You know, okay, so Greece is like the country that's like a peninsula, and it's like got all these little appendages that go everywhere. And Corinth is the city that's right there in the middle of the peninsula, and there's a road that goes. It's like just 10 miles from the Aegean. The Aegean Sea to the I think it's the Adriatic on the other side. So it actually is kind of in the middle of the country, and it is also very strategic because of the shipping routes that go through it. No, I'm not rambling. I'm telling you about Corinth.
I didn't understand any of that, but okay.
I should
Hi,
have
Granny
brought a
Bear.
map. Sorry.
So, what happened was, he went over, and he was in Corinth, and he was doing work in the docks, and he met this guy who offered his home for the night, because he was like, hey, do you have a place to stay? And he was like, nope. So he went over, and they're Christians. So he's like, you know what, I'm just going to leave tomorrow morning. So then what happens is we flash forward a few years or something, and he's basically living in the gutter.
And he's been having a great time in Rome, like living the life.
No.
No?
Dad, please.
Okay.
So he's been like living in the gutter, and then this guy, he comes up to him and he's like, you know, I have a job for you. It's for a strong person. Do you want to become a Roman gladiator? And if you didn't know, gladiators in Rome, they were like fighting to the death, and like the chances of you surviving at all and living after that are astronomically low.
What was he thinking about doing before?
I don't know.
He was thinking about jumping into the Tiber.
Right.
The Tiber is the river. He was basically thinking about killing himself.
Yeah, he was gonna commit suicide. And so he decided that he'd become a gladiator, and he's watching the first match. He's gonna watch the first match, and he met this guy who is from Britain, and he'd been, yeah, it's like,
She remembers one place.
so then what happens is he'd actually been like, he'd been captured as a slave, and so he became a Christian, kind of. You see, one of his masters was a Christian, and he liked the Christian God, so he kind of learned about that and everything. So he's kind of a Christian. It's hard to explain, but so Onesimus, he's not gonna be taking part in this first match because they want him to like see how it works and everything. So that's about it.
Is that all you have today?
Just
All right, JJ wants to inspire us with his tongue.
Actually, with this. How are you doing today? Eric. Alright, little one. Sorry guys, I didn't do it right.
It's okay, keep going. Take a bow. Okay.
What do you have to say, sir? Sir?
Hi. Okay, that's enough. Hi. Okay, so now we are on chapter 19. We're going to find out what happens with the Briton and find out what happens with Onesimus. Great job, says Jessica. Granny Bear says bravo.
Remember 2 or 4 chapters tonight.
No, 2.
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing 2 chapters tonight and 2 chapters tomorrow, and that will finish the book. And we have a special extra reading selection tomorrow night that I will let you guys know about tomorrow night. Actually, I just told you today. There we go. All right, so here we are, chapter 19. The Briton won his palm, and his training became more rigorous, but throughout the scorching summer months, he was kept back from the amphitheater. Nero's marriage with Poppaea was drawing near, and the most promising gladiators must not be killed before the great days of feasting and holiday. Onesimus, too, on account of his graceful body and good looks, was being carefully protected from death or scarring. Daily he fought with blunt weapons, and developed his muscles in the gymnasium. To accustom him to the sight of blood, he was forced to go twice a week at dawn and witness condemned criminals thrown to the wild beasts. And twice, at a real celebration, he had been paired with a semi-trained gladiator who showed no promise, and he had struck him down easily with a sharp blade. The first time he had trembled and sickened, but the second time he had turned away quickly from the crumpled form in the sand and received his palm, fixing his mind resolutely on the gold and silver pieces showered upon him by the onlookers. He was daily becoming more and more inured to the carnage and bloodshed, and more akin to the hardened brutes around. But 2 threads held him back from utter vileness and degradation. One was his friendship with the Briton, who seemed incapable of contamination, and who hated the whole business from start to finish. This man, amid death, violence, and debauchery, remained his gentle, childlike self, in the company, but not of it. His goodness his goodness the rock to which Onesimus clung, lest he lose his humanity and become a beast forever. The second thread was the memory of Irene. He dwelt in the scorching city where the sand reeked of dried blood, and men sank lower every day, but her country was the canyon where the air was cold and clean, the water pure, and the rocks sharp and rugged. If he were ever to meet her again, he must not sink to the status of a beast. If he went on winning, he might one day become a rich, free man. Like the Briton, some day he might even go home.
Yeah, you've been using his markers. Share.
Oh, I see. JJ's using Daniel's pencil. It's okay, Daniel. All right. I'm going to continue reading now, okay? All right. As the burning, thirsty days passed, the training of this picked group of winners became more specialized. They no longer fought in the amphitheater, but rose at dawn for their first exercises and ate apart on a diet of special quality. Their massage took longer, their tournament practice became more intense, their leisure more carefully supervised. Cattle primed for slaughter, their companions called them, but Onesimus was beginning to enjoy himself. All those who survived the great days of the wedding festival would almost certainly receive their rudis in the end, and he could not help knowing that the betting on the winners was almost all on himself and the Briton. Now that the days for the festivities drew near, the group was seldom allowed beyond the barracks, for they were reckoned about the most valuable property in Rome. But even they could not miss the sense of excitement and the frantic preparations that were being made. The Praetorian cohorts of the Campus Martius were drilling in squadrons nearby all day long except for the noon siesta, and the harbors were thronged with ships bringing choice fruits, spices, and gold, and silver curios from the end of the earth. Every country sent its tributes to the emperor, and the menageries were being lavishly replenished. Night after night, great cages were wheeled through the streets, bearing hippopotami from Nubia, lions from Mesopotamia, elephants, tigers, leopards, and panthers from North Africa. Sleep in certain quarters became impossible because of their anguished roaring. Everyone was in high holiday mood, for corn and wine and sweetmeats would be showered upon the populace, and all would live to the full for a few glorious weeks. Onesimus, as the opening day drew near, was in a restless mood. By day he exulted, scenting the blood of battle, hearing the clash of arms, sure of victory. If he came through this orgy, he would certainly receive his rudis and rank with some of the greatest names in Rome. But at night he would wake with strange, fearful forebodings, breaking out in perspiration as though the shadow of death already hung over him. One night it was so terrible that he rose and paced the floor of his dormitory, and his friend the Briton came and paced beside him. "I know," he said, "this is the terror by night. I do not think I shall ever see my country again. Oh, what I would not give to feel the soft summer rain on my face and smell the sweet loam of the oak woods." But the first days of the festival went well. The Briton was in the Samnite group and fought with sword and shield. Onesimus, in the Thracian group, was armed with a dagger and a buckler, and the two carried all before them. Day after day, when the other entertainments had taken place and the satiated crowd sank back exhausted, they alighted with the other gladiators from their carriages, and new life came to the amphitheater. They marched round the arena in military costume, followed by servants who carried their arms. When they reached the royal box, they turned and extended their right hands to Nero and addressed him, "Hail, Emperor, we, about to die, salute thee." Day after day they saw their opponents sink down, sometimes dead, sometimes wounded. If strength remained, the loser would lift his left arm in an appeal for mercy, and in that deathly silence all eyes would turn to Nero, who could save life or pass the death sentence with a flick of his thumb. Day by day they received costly rewards, dishes laden with gold and precious gifts. They were becoming rich men, and surely it could not be long now before they were liberated. So many had died. Then the blow fell. It had been a tremendous day. The charioteer and their racehorses had given a thrilling performance and covered themselves in glory. 20 elephants had fought to the death with a team of armed barbarians. Criminals had fought with leopards. Elephants had traced Latin phrases in the sand with their trunks, kneeling before the emperor's box. Armed men had fought with bulls and lions and tigers and had torn each other to pieces. And now the jaded spectators, tired of violence, death, and bloodshedding, wilted in the sultry evening. Food, gifts, and purses were showered upon the crowd, for enthusiasm must be kept at fever heat. Poppaea, sitting beside her husband, was seen to yawn, and something must be done quickly. Nero whispered to a valet who sped off on an errand, "The gladiators! The gladiators!" It was a cry that usually brought everyone to attention, but tonight Rome languished. The applause was less deafening than usual as the young giants saluted their emperor and went back to draw for their partners. They found the procurator looking thoroughly perturbed. "The divine emperor desires a novelty," he announced. "He has commanded the Briton to fight the Phrygian. Thracian against Samnite, dagger against sword. It will be an ill-matched fight. Take your arms. The music is striking up." So it had come to this. Friend must kill friend. Onesimus averted his eyes, and then found that his mouth was dry with fear. The Briton would win the rudis today, for the sword would triumph easily over the dagger, but he, Onesimus, would not be there to rejoice. "Hurry," hissed the procurator. "The trumpets are blowing." There was a gasp of surprise as the two winners with their rival arms entered the arena, and then roar upon roar of deafening cheers. No need to stimulate the crowd now. Even the Senate had half risen from their stone seats. There was a silent moment of agony, and then the Briton lunged half-heartedly with his sword, and Onesimus deftly dodged and pricked his opponent with the dagger. What was happening? These men were playing for a truce, not fighting to kill. Nero would lose his temper in a moment, and the crowd was screaming to inflame them. The instructor crossed the arena, whip in his hand, and began to thrash them on the calves of their legs. "Strike! Slay!" he hissed. "Are you women that you dawdle like this? Strike! Slay! Or I will turn the beasts on you!" The Briton gave a tremendous lunge, but it was only the flat of his sword that came down on Onesimus' left arm, cracking the bone like matchwood. The boy's buckler fell to the ground, and he sprang close. Shutting his eyes, he plunged the dagger deep into the flesh of the Briton, who gave a last blind thrust into Onesimus' shoulder and staggered backwards, bleeding. He was sinking down, and the screaming, crazy, triumphant crowd had risen to their feet to a man. Onesimus drew out his dagger from his opponent's breast. He had followed his instincts and pierced him just above the heart. He heard nothing of the savage yelling. He was standing looking down, alone with his pain and his dying friend, who could so easily have killed him if he would. The blue eyes looked straight at him again, and there was neither anger nor resentment in the look, only the same patient sorrow and kindness. To Pomponia's god of mercy," he whispered, and then crumpled into the stained sand. The Briton had gone home. "The rudis! The rudis!" The words were taken up in a swelling roar all round the amphitheater. Nero was leaning forward from his box. His bloated face creased into a snarling smile as he dropped the coveted wooden sword, the sign of a gladiator's release. Gold, flowers, gifts were falling around him, but Onesimus turned his back on them all and fled from the arena. He was gasping from loss of blood and in agony from his fracture, but this was nothing compared with the agony of his heart. What were riches and fame and glory now? He had killed his friend, the one in whom dwelt the only good that he knew in this vile city. then let them die together. He was out in the dark streets, and a full moon was shining down on him, and it was blessedly cool. The Tiber was not far off, and he would walk along its bank a little way to where the water was less polluted, and then he hoped it would be oblivion. But he was not sure. There had been a way to eternal joy, but he had long ago refused it. He was conscious of eyes watching him as he dragged his feet along the road, the wild eyes of Archippus as he fell beneath the crowd, the loving eyes of his mother when he dealt her that blow, Glaucus' frightened eyes as he flung down the gold, the sorrowful, forgiving, dying eyes of the Briton. Haunted, conscience-stricken, wretched, he staggered on, and now he stood by the black waters of the river, the fear of death enveloping him, and he hesitated, irresolute. Footsteps on the path beside him. He turned, startled, as a figure passed by him, unseeing. But the moonlight shone on the strong Jewish features, and Onesimus knew them instantly. The years rolled away, and he was back in the weaving shed at Ephesus, a tired boy who thought Philemon would never stop talking. Master Aquila! Master Aquila! He was down on his knees in the stained finery, clutching the man's cloak with his right hand. Then the moonlight darkened, and the murmur of the river ceased as he fell in a dead faint upon the ground. Chapter 20. Sorry, that one was pretty intense. He was conscious of being lifted and carried somewhere, of agonizing jolting, of the murmur of voices, of sudden peace and silence, and then he knew nothing more until the following day, when he awoke to find the afternoon sun making golden patterns on a courtyard covered over with vine trellis. He himself was lying on a couch in a little room opening off the yard. Being very weak from loss of blood, he lay for a long time motionless, slowly remembering all that had happened. His stained purple and gold uniform had been removed, and he had been washed and clothed in a cool white linen robe. He was glad that all the blood had been washed away. His arm had been skillfully set and splinted and tied across his chest, and the wound in his shoulder was staunched and dressed. Into what peaceful human paradise had he befallen? His last clear memory was the darkness and the black waters of the Tiber, in whose foul depths he would have been lying now if it had not been for that face. He could not remember clinging to him as to an anchor, but he was sure that through the mists of horror he had caught sight of the face of Master Aquila of Ephesus. He supposed it must have been he who brought him here and staunched his bleeding and saved his life. But did he want his life to be saved? Other memories came back in full force. His friend lying limp in the dark sand, the vile attendant disguised as Charon, hastening up to strike him on his head with a mallet to ensure that he was really dead. That last gentle look of forgiveness and the whispered words of peace. Onesimus turned his face to the wall so that none might see his wretchedness. He heard a light footfall in the courtyard, and he looked up. A woman was standing, gazing down at him, and he had seen her face before. In just this way she had stood looking down on him on that terrible night when he had thought Archippus was dead, and she had comforted him and fed him. "Mistress Priscilla," he whispered, wondering whether perhaps after all he had taken leave of his senses and was seeing ghosts. She went on staring down at him as though she too recognized his face and was trying to remember where they had met. But the memory eluded her, and she shook her head. "Ephesus," said Onesimus in a weary voice, "you sheltered me and put me to sleep with your little Levi on the night that Paul the Jew left the city." "I remember." Her face was thoughtful. "You were a poor frightened child then, looking for your master. You have greatly changed. How do you come to be in Rome?" He had not thought out a plausible story, but realized that he was singularly free from fear, for these Christians would not betray him behind his back. "My master set me free," he lied. "I worked my way to Rome on a corn ship and won glory in the amphitheater." "So you were wounded fighting?" "I recognized the dress of the gladiator. You had bled much. You are fortunate to still be alive." "I would I were dead," he blurted out. Mistress Priscilla, last night I killed my friend. What is life or glory to me now?" "There is forgiveness and new life," she said gently. "But you must rest now, and then one of the elders of the church will talk with you. See, I have brought you a potion to ease your pain, and Master Luke, the physician, who set your bone and staunched your wound, said he would look in before sunset." She gave him a soothing drink and arranged his pillow, and went away to prepare a meal. The pattern on the floor got brighter and then faded altogether as the sun sank behind the tall buildings. Then the outer door opened, and the physician who had attended him came in and examined him carefully and redressed his wound. "You look better," said Master Luke, "but your arm was badly broken, and you lost much blood. You must rest for a time." Onesimus looked up, troubled. "Did Master Aquila bring me to his home?" he asked. Luke hesitated. This young man with the sin-seared, weary face had won in the games. His rudis lay on the ground beside him, and he would probably be consorting with men of high station as soon as he recovered. Already the first rumbles that were to end in the great tempest of persecution were making themselves heard. Some of their group had already been tried and sentenced. Paul was in prison. It would not do to give anyone away. He replied diplomatically. "Did you know Master Aquila before?" "Yes, I knew him when I was a boy back in Ephesus. Last night he passed me in the street. I was in deep trouble, and it was good to see one face that I knew. I called out to him in my weakness and sickness, and then I knew no more. It was good of him to bring me here. Yes, Mistress Priscilla is a woman full of good works, who has nursed men who were homeless and needy. I understand you have met her before, too." "Yes, also in Ephesus. How strange it is! During these 2 years in Rome, I have seen no kind face and found no good thing save in one, and him I killed with my own hands in the arena last night, and now it seems as though chance or the gods have brought me to those who care for me. Life is cheap in Rome. Why was I not left to die in the street, or to cast myself into the Tiber as I proposed? It would have been better for me. But you say that you knew Master Aquila and Mistress Priscilla. Would you have expected them to leave you to die in the streets?" "No, because they worship their God, Christ, and he enjoins them to be merciful. It seems to me that you too, Master Luke, worship Christ, for you have doctored me well and made no bargain as to fees. But I can pay you what I owe, and Mistress Priscilla too. Up at the barracks my reward waits for me. Only last night I had no heart for it." Luke did not seem interested. "Then you have heard of Christ?" "Many times. Priscilla will tell you I am a freed slave. My master was a Christian, and all his household." "Then do us a favor. Which is better than gold? When you return to fame and great riches, do not betray this house, nor those who come here. Some of them you may meet daily in Caesar's palace. Do not recognize them. The times are hard for those who follow Christ, and the emperor frowns upon us. Remember that you received good, and forget this home. You are safe. I have no taste to return to the great and famous. I am sickened with bloodshed and pleasure and drunkenness and hate." "Then stay with us and learn of Christ." There was a pause, and Onesimus was silent. Luke rose, for his patient's eyes were bright with fever. "I will see you again on the morrow," he said. "Farewell." But he did not leave the house. He crossed over to a room opening out of the courtyard, and soon Mistress Priscilla appeared with strengthening food and wine, and Levi, who was now a fine boy of 12, stayed and helped him eat. His father Aquila had not yet come home. But Onesimus could not sleep. For one thing, something was happening in the house. Every few minutes the outer door opened softly, and Onesimus could see the dark forms of men and women and children crowding into a room on the far side of the atrium. He could hear anxious whispering and the voice of Luke the physician reasoning with them. By the light of the tiny lamp, the sick boy could see them huddled together, their shadows thrown grotesquely on the floor of the courtyard. The lamp stood on a table, and there was a cup and bread. Suddenly their voices rose in a hymn, and Onesimus lifted his head and strained his ears to listen. Clear and sweet through the darkness the words reached him. Jesus Christ came into the world to save sinners. If we die with him, we shall also reign with him. Sinners. What a sinner he had been. What treachery, what lies, what hatred. It was too late now, for he had long ago spurned Jesus Christ and fled from him. The voices droned on, one after the other. He could not catch what they were saying, and he dozed a little. Then suddenly he woke, for someone was concluding a reading, and his voice rang out, strong and vibrant, through the little house. For I am persuaded that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. And maybe not distance either, not land or sea, thought Onesimus with a little shudder. He had fled thousands of furlongs from the voice of that love, and yet he could not get away from it. Could it be that those swift, terrible feet were pursuing him even now, and had nearly caught up with him? Must he soon turn and face this God of love? When Aquila came tiptoeing in later to settle him for the night, he found his patient trembling and drenched in perspiration. "What is that book you were reading?" asked Onesimus abruptly when they had greeted each other. "We read from the letter Paul wrote us 4 years ago," replied Aquila. "We had just returned from Ephesus when it arrived. The little church had only learned of Christ by those who had heard of him from others, and when things are passed from mouth to mouth, they become confused. He wrote to explain just why Christ died. But we still have many questions. It was a great day for us when Paul arrived in Rome." Onesimus, in spite of his weakness, half sat up. "Paul?" he repeated. "In Rome? You do not mean to say he is here now?" "Why, yes," replied Aquila. "He has been here for over a year. He was brought as a prisoner because he appealed to Caesar. But they treat him quite kindly. He lives in his own hired house and is allowed to receive guests and to write his letters. Only, of course, he is chained day and night to a guard, so there is no privacy." But Onesimus was not listening. "I must go and see him," he said. And that's the end of chapter 20, which is where we will end for this evening. And I hope that you join us for the exciting conclusion finale tomorrow when we read chapters 21, 22, and 23, along with the special extra blurb that I like to throw in. By the way, there is a character in the next chapter that is a very, very minor character in the Bible. But this is a funny story, because when I took my New Testament class in college, thank you for the hearts, by the way, whoever those are from, we thank you. It doesn't give me your icon, it just gives me like a little blank icon. But I'm assuming it's everybody joining in with all the hearts. So go ahead. But so when I was in my New Testament class, and the thumbs up are okay too. When I was in my New Testament class in college, they were talking about all these minor characters that are just like briefly mentioned in some of Paul's letters. And one of them is this little dude. I don't know if he's little or not, but this dude, and his name was Tychicus. Or I've also heard it Tychicus, but we called it Tychicus in our New Testament class. And the professor, funny story, because one of my classes that I have, I'm actually, one of my textbooks in one of my next classes is written by this same professor. Interesting. So my professor said, who in this class, who would like to be called, who would like to go around their life being called Tychicus? And we could just call you Tick. And I raised my hand, and they called me Tick for the rest of the semester in that class. True story. So that is that is my true story. And he is in, I'm assuming he's in the next chapter, but he might be in he might not be in the very next chapter, but he's definitely with Paul. Yes, we do get to meet Paul once again in this book. If you were wondering, sorry for the spoiler there. I know I said no spoilers, but I think it's pretty obvious at this point where we're going. So we've got... No, I'm pretty sure it's Tychicus. No, because my... Hey, Daniel, I don't think it's worth arguing about, but my professor, Dr. Duvall, said that it was Tychicus, so I'm going with Tychicus. So there's Kimberly's picture.
Do you like it?
If you like it, give it a thumbs up. Tick a boo and Jenny too. Wow. Okay, I will make sure to spell that for you because actually I could probably find it pretty quickly.
Guys.
It's
Granny Bear says hi to you guys.
hi.
Granny Bear, we love you. Good night.
If you like it, then hit the like button.
Tychicus, he's in Colossians chapter 4, verse 7. Tychicus.
If you like this one, hit the subscribe button.
All right, Daniel is insisting on arguing with me, so we're going to leave it for now, and I hope that y'all have a good night, and we'll talk to you later. Have a good night. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow for the exciting